I can tell you. And what about the other ones? Well, I just can't sleep. Really? You can't sleep. That's funny. Back in the day, I'm talking, 1950s, 60s, 70s, hell, even into the 80s, there was a lot of labor that was hard labor every day. I used to do some of those jobs when I was a kid. The kind of jobs where you're up, 6 a.m. and you're out the door and it's not even daylight out yet, and you get onto the job site at 7 a.m., whatever the job is, and you go underground or crawl in the bowel of a ship. I remember that was one job I had. I used to work for the local dockyard, and we had this contract to do a bunch of Navy ships, and they put me down, 7 a.m. in the morning. They put me down into these bulkheads, which were only accessible by a little, basically a 2-foot hole in the steel. And you'd crawl through all of these sections and go all the way as far forward in the ship as you could. And you had these compressors and sprayers with you, and you'd just spray down all the insides of the bulkheads. Now, there was next to no light, no breathing respirators or anything else. And what were we spraying in there? Well, I'm glad you asked, Uncle Crash, because he can tell you. Lead paint. Yeah, lead paint. Yeah. And you're dragging that hose and that compressor gear and stuff all through these dark little things all day, and you're spraying around lead paint and, breathing it, because they didn't give you any breathing apparatus because, who cares? You're just a $10 an hour worker or something, aren't you? Actually, no, it was more like $6. So I'd do this job, and I'd work all day, and lunchtime would come around, and I'd already feel like I had worked 2 days straight. And, we went back down after lunch and continued and worked right through till 5 o'clock, and that was the end of the workday. And let me tell you, when you come home, it's about all you can do to get dinner down your throat, maybe have a bath if you've got the energy, and then die in bed. Only to get up, of course, the next morning, which comes all too soon, and you're back at it again. Yeah. And yours truly lasted about 3 weeks doing that job before I just couldn't do it anymore. But let me tell you, through that period of time, I had no problem sleeping. But you see, we don't do that kind of stuff anymore. And more, with the advent of unions and safety councils and everything else, the worker, even doing laborious jobs, is doing less and less physical labor. And don't even get me started on, the corporate world or indeed Burger King. You want to talk about sedentary job positions, that would be the place to start. I think we're just too sedentary. I think that's why more and more people are suffering from things like insomnia and all that other good stuff. Case in point, I've got a good friend of mine who's got an injured back, and he's a veteran, and he's been doing a lot of suffering and a lot of dealing with the VA and, I guess more suffering because of that. And he can barely ever sleep. But that's because of severe back pain. And the fact that because of his injuries, he's not as active as he'd like to be at his age. So there you go. So really, when the patient comes to the doctor and says, I can't sleep at night, I think it's probably incumbent on the doctor to say, hey, what's your lifestyle like? Yeah? Do you go out and run around the block 5 times a day? Do you go walk the dog? Do you, what do you do? Just sit in an office chair all day? Do you sit in the car and drive to work and then sit in the car and drive home? And when you're at work, you're just sitting all day. And then when you come home, you're just sitting all night. What kind of lifestyle are you leading there as my patient? Let me know. I can probably find many different ways to, fix your sleeplessness. Really what I'm getting to here, ladies and gentlemen, is it's almost like we're fostering this, let's make excuses why I need medical marijuana so I can just buy pot. And I don't think that's right. No. I mean, how is that right? It's not right. If you want to smoke pot and it's legal in your state, just go do that. This conforming to state rules and paying state taxes and everything else, although it's great that the taxes are going to things like schools, but there's a lot more money being generated there for the government, and where's that going? Right? See? There's something else there. Yeah. So, food for thought, things to keep in mind. Now, Canadian pot use, is 4 times the global rate. Now, you've got to kind of understand a couple of things. First of all, in the United States right now, I think we're up to 320 million is our population of our fair country here. 320 million. In Canada, it's 32 million. So think of Canada as about 10% total size of the U.S. in terms of people. It's a very important factor when dealing with some statistics that I'm about to talk about. So keep that in mind. Now, we're 1/10 the size of the U.S. and Canada, but the pot use is 4 times the entire industrialized world's global rate. Now, you got to understand something else, too. That doesn't mean every Canadian is smoking bongs and huffing weed and everybody's ganja city. That's not the case. No. So, kind of some things to keep in mind before we get into this next dealio. Just thought I'd let you know that. Now, marijuana use in Canada is the highest in the industrialized world, yes, more than 4 times the global rate, according to a report from the United Nations. The UN study even suggests that Canadians use marijuana at a rate double that of the Netherlands, where, of course, it's legal to buy and sell the drug for personal use there. The report also says that cannabis use around the world appears to have stabilized and appears to be declining in North America. A plunge in use by Ontario high school students was cited as a factor in the trend. The World Drug Use Study by the UN Office on Drugs and Crime said that 16.8% of Canadians aged 15 to 64 smoked marijuana or used other cannabis products in 2004, the most recent year for which statistics are cited. Marijuana possession remains illegal in Canada, despite years of recommendation by parliamentarians to decriminalize it. As a result, tens of thousands of people have criminal records for possession. This is true. The Canadian Press reported that arrests for marijuana possession in several Canadian cities increased between 20 and 50% last year in 2013. The report cited police officials as saying the jump on arrests is linked to the Conservative government's decision to drop a Liberal bill that would have decriminalized the possession of small amounts of marijuana. Everyone was waiting for what was going to happen. There'd be no use clogging up the court system with that decriminalization bill sitting there. Well, when that was defeated, I'd say it was business as usual, says Terry McLaren, president of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. The UN study, using the most recent statistics collected from each country, although some dated back almost a decade, estimated that 3.8% of the world's population aged 15 to 64 used cannabis in 2005. That was about 159 million people, down slightly from 162 million the previous year. The data shows Canadian usage fifth after Zambia, 17.7% in 2003, Ghana in 21.5% in 1998, Papua New Guinea, and Micronesia, which tied for first place at 29% each in 1995. The Canadian statistics compared to 2005 rates of 8.7 in England and Wales, 12.6 in the United States, 8.5 in Israel, 10.7 in Jamaica, and 6.1 in the Netherlands, where possession and use of the drug is legal. Now, in some countries in East and Southeast Asia, such as Korea, Singapore, and the Middle East, places such as Oman and Qatar, cannabis use is negligible. The report said cannabis compromises by far the largest illicit drug market on the planet. The study also noted a 38% dip in cannabis use among U.S. 12th graders between 1979, when marijuana use peaked, and of course 2006, a 19% drop in use by Ontario high school students between 2003 and 2005 was also noted. The report also said that there was slightly less trafficking of cannabis from Canada into the United States in 2005. This could indicate the cannabis production stabilized or even declined slightly in Canada following large production increases in previous years. citing Canadian government estimates between 2000 and 2004 production in Canada more than doubled. However, the report also suggested that the altered trafficking trend could also indicate that organized crime groups have relocated to the American Pacific Northwest and California to avoid tightened border controls. 40% of Canadian cannabis is produced in British Columbia, 25% in Ontario, and 25% in Quebec, the report noted. Now, a couple of things to remember here, okay? While people like you and me may, go out and grow the stuff, and we're all cool and stuff, and that's okay. And, if we want to harvest a couple of trees and bag a couple of bags and share it with our friends, that should be all good, right? But there's another side to this. That's the biker connection. I'm going to go for our second commercial break, but when we come back, we'll get into the biker connection and what that actually means and what that means as far as, legalizing marijuana and indeed the non-prescription production. We'll be back in 2.
You've got it locked to New York's best talk, HTLA Radio 1.
Glasses. White Rum has a new captain. Introducing the all-new Captain Morgan White Rum. 5 times distilled for a smoother taste.
The hot new accessory, brows that wow. New from Maybelline, New York, it's Brow Drama, our first sculpting ball brush with tinted gel. Just sweep, then sculpt for bolder, sculpted brows. New Brow Drama. Get the look at Maybelline.com.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Good morning. Welcome to Tim Hortons Cafe and Bake Shop,
where fresh always tastes better.
What can I make you this morning?
How about our new flatbread breakfast paninis? Made fresh, just for you, with your favorite breakfast ingredients on maple or multigrain flatbread, then grilled to hot, melted perfection. Just $2.99. Who couldn't warm up to that?
Tim Hortons Cafe and Bake Shop, where quality really does meet value.
In this fast-paced, digital everything life, there's nothing like experiencing the world's finest journalism in its original form. So sign up today for as little as $3.80 a week to receive the greatest newspaper in the world and all the incredible experiences that come with it.
When we arrived at our hotel in New York, the porter was so incredibly careless with our bags. And the room they gave us, it was
beautiful.
A broom closet.
But the
worst part was the shower. My wife drying herself with the
Egyptian cotton towels.
Shower curtain defined that whole vacation for her. Don't just visit New York.
Visit TripAdvisor New York.
With millions of reviews, a visit to TripAdvisor makes any destination better.
We're New York's best talk radio, HTLA Radio 1.
Yeah. We are back on the big program. Yes. Good old boys from Miami Vice coming to crack down. That's what we're doing. Well, welcome back to HTLA Radio 1 and the Crash Talk for this Tuesday, the 17th of February, 2015. Still 26 degrees Central Park. Nice and clear. And Tim Hortons, New York City. 8 locations in the city to serve your coffee and baked good nummy needs. Yeah.